Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in St. Petersburg. Whether you're here in the sanctuary or watching live stream or watching later on YouTube after you've woken up and had a good day. We're glad you're here in whatever sense that is. My name is Susan Burnore, and I'm a member of this church and on our worship team. Our minister, Reverend Ben Atherton Zeman, is on vacation today. And when he is, our worship team fills in, so I'll be leading the service today. Another member on the team is Todd Wellman, and he will be our worship associate. Vanda Hughes, Rebecca Wilson, Jeff Bambro, and our wonderful greeters, along with our wonderful pianist and organist, Aaron Cassette, will be helping us out today too. Our theme for today is commencement, since so many of us are involved with graduations this time of year, either our own or for friends or neighbors that are going through all kinds of commencements. It's a time for finishing up, clearing the decks, and also having a fresh start. So we'll be talking about those ideas today. For information about our church or things going on this summer, I invite you to check out our website, uustpete.org, and also note announcements in your handout today. I'll mention just one important event because it is today at 4 o'clock, the garden party at Trish Birch's house. And it's our first fundraiser in a long time. So please do support it. Is Trish here or is she home getting ready? I think she's home getting ready. She's doing all the hard work. Food and the garden. I'm doing the easy part, what I'm really good at. Along with Cal Fox, I'm going to be the bartender. And we're going to have things with and without alcohol. So please come and join us. If you're visiting today for the first time, please give a little wave so we can spot you and harass you later. Oh, good. We've got a good group. Thank you. We hope you'll stay and join us for coffee hour after the service, right through those doors and through to our outside area. Once we're outside, we can be without masks, which is really nice. We're happy that you're here, but we're happy to see one another also. So let's take a moment just to turn and say hello to our friends that we haven't seen all week. That's great. We're still so fresh and happy about seeing one another in person occasionally. Please plan on continuing these greetings and conversations after the service. Again, welcome to our church, where we don't share a theology, but we do share a belief that what we do in this world matters, and that we can help one another along our journeys. Whoever you are, whoever you have become, wherever you are in commencing the rest of your life, you are welcome here. Now, opening words from Todd.
Good morning. Hey, I'm Todd Wellman. I'm a fairly new member of this church, and I'm happy to be serving as worship associate today. For our opening words, this poem from the ancient Persian poet Rumi, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest as honorable. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Now, please stand if you're willing and able for our chalice lighting, and remain standing for our first hymn. The words for lighting our chalice are in your program. Please say them together as Jeff Bambro lights our chalice. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Please remain standing for our first hymn, We'll Build a Land. It's number 121, and it looks like we're going to be led by Rebecca and Stephanie and Vanda and Joanne. Yay! Thank you so much. We'll sing all the verses. Appropriate choice for commencement. Thank you. Please be seated. Now's the time where we invite the children to come forward before they head to RE, and our RE and communications coordinator, Janae. Miss Janae's not here today, so I know there are not as many children as usual, but I see, are there any children who want to come forward? Here comes someone. Okay, good. Here we go. Great. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here today because I have a question for you. Today we're talking about commencement. Do you know what that means? A lot of people don't. It's not just you. Well, we're talking, it's a word that you use when you graduate from something, like when you finish kindergarten. It's what? Oh, she's graduated from kindergarten. How about you?
From
Okay.
you did not.
They're both graduating and going on to better things. So what will you be doing next year? Okay, you're going to first grade and you're going to, I'm so deaf, it's really embarrassing. But they're both graduated, they're both doing great. So, well, since we talk about commencement, at the end of the year, when you're getting ready to go take the summer off or finish up whatever you're doing, do you think maybe commencement means finish up? Yeah. A lot of people think it means finish up, but you know what? It doesn't. It means beginning. Because as soon as you finish up with kindergarten, are you finished with school forever? Mm-mm. As soon as you finish up a ballet class, are you finished with dancing forever? Mm-mm. You're ready to commence. That means to begin something new. And that's why we have commencement. Okay? So that's your new word for today. Because at this time of year, we don't only celebrate what we're finishing up, we celebrate what we're beginning. And since you're all commencing on a great summer and you're about to head off to RE class, you get a little gift. This is for you. This is for you. And these are for your friends in class, okay? You take it to them. That's to say, congratulations on finishing your year of school and have a great summer and a great start to school next year. Okay? So we're through with this. What commences next? What?
First grade, because I just finished kindergarten and I'm going to begin first grade.
Yes, she's looking forward to first grade. But before first grade, you go with Miss Trish to your RE class, right? So we'll sing you out. Let's do that.
Now we'll take some time to share joys and concerns that people want all of us to know about. If you're watching online, please type your joy or concern into the chat. During the week, we collect things that people send into our minister or to the office, and today's cards that are completed and turned in here. Vanda will place a stone in our bowl of water for each joy or concern, symbolizing the effect each has on our community.
Our first card is a concern for all our members and friends who are coping with illness.
Our next joy is from Susan Gore that Hurricane Agatha missed Tampa Bay, and it missed Gulfport's Pride celebration yesterday that was benefiting the LGBT Resource Center, and it was filled with love. And Vanda will place a final stone for those joys and concerns that lie unspoken in our hearts, and for those people who might not have a community like this to share them with. Thank you, Vanda. For today's reading, here are a few quotes that some great commencement addresses included. From author Dennis Lehane at Eckerd College, just down the road, in 2004. Honor is the affirmative answer to one simple question you ask of yourself every day. Did I behave with dignity and respect toward all living things? From Gloria Steinem at Tufts University in 1987. If you have to choose character or intelligence in a friend or in a candidate, choose character. Intelligence without character is dangerous, but character without intelligence only slows down a good result. From Ariana Huffington at Sarah Lawrence College in 2011, a key component of wisdom is fearlessness, which is not the absence of fear, but rather not letting our fears get in the way. And finally, Muhammad Ali gave the commencement speech at Harvard in 1975 to a group of students wildly excited about seeing him. He did not disappoint. He gave a rousing speech about the importance of friendship. When he'd finished, someone in the audience shouted out, "Give us a poem." He responded with one of his own, the shortest poem in history, "Me, we."
For our meditation today, a song about beginning anew. If you would all turn to page 1037 in the turquoise hymnal, 1037, and remain seated for a little meditative time. Todd and I will take turns reading the narrator line. You really just have one line to sing back. It's the same one, even though it's written over and over in your hymnal. It's "We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love." Here's the tune Aaron's going to play.
Shall we sing it all together once before we get started? We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again.
For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our humanity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again.
For those, and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, we started including something in our services called A View from the Pew. A member of our congregation is asked to write a brief reflection on the day's topic, a personal view. Today it's on commencement. I'm delighted that today's view from the pew comes from Vanda Hughes. Vanda joined our church not long before the pandemic hit, so some of you may not know her yet. She has been an art teacher, so she has a lot to say on this. Vanda.
Thank you. As a high school art teacher for many years, I have been to quite a few commencements. I was often called upon to help behind the scenes or to even pass out diplomas. Being asked by a student to give them their diploma was an honor. One year, a student named Natasha asked me to give her her diploma. I first met Natasha in my computer art class. She was a sweet, quiet, smiling young lady. She didn't interact much with the other students, but was warm and kind to me as her teacher. She struggled to learn Photoshop, but I enjoyed helping her because of her sweet disposition. Then her father, a prison guard, was brutally murdered at work. I felt so sad for her. I would come and talk to her while she was working. She said she could hear her mother crying at night. I tried to comfort her, but I didn't really know what to say. 2 years went by, and then I received a request to hand her her diploma. I didn't realize we had connected like we did, but as she walked toward me on the stage, I could see her face was filled with emotions, a combination of joy and sadness. And then suddenly, she ran at me and hugged me hard. My principal laughed. I felt overwhelmed and confused. It was a new beginning for her, and yet she seemed to be saying thank you to me. I wondered about deserving this emotion. It didn't seem like I had really done anything. But when I reflect on this now, I realize sometimes you don't need to say much. Sometimes just being there and talking is what people need. New beginnings are a chance to thank people and a chance to move forward. Commencement is an important ceremony or rite of passage, and there are layers there that people don't even realize. And that ritual is something that enables these special moments.
Thank you so much, Vanda. I think these words from different members add so much to the service. If any of you would like to offer to write something about an upcoming service, please let me or Susan know, and we'll let future worship leaders know that you are interested in giving a view from the pew. It's time now for our ushers to come forward and collect today's offering. If you're visiting us, please feel free to let the plate pass you by. You're our guest today.
Thank you, Erin, and thank you again, Vanda. I have to start with a little confession about how this reflection came about this morning. A couple of weeks ago, Reverend Ben and I realized that the speaker we had planned for today wasn't going to work out, and that Ben would be on vacation. I said, no problem. I gave a program on that a few years ago. I'll pull it out, I'll update it for 2022. No one will remember it, and it'll be great. It won't be a lot of work. I don't remember what I said, but I do remember that everyone liked it a lot. It was very well received, so got that covered. So I found the notes for that service. It was back in 2015. And I'm happily reading through the order of service and the script. When I get to this point in the service, it says, Susan introduces the speaker. It wasn't my talk. No wonder I couldn't remember what I said, and no wonder everybody liked it so much. It was actually Patty Hanks and Annie Hall, and they did a great job. But it was too late for me to prevail upon them to write something new. So I turned to my two muses. One is John Arterton, our music director who's out of town, but he's such a great writer. He always has something to suggest. And also my best friend, Google. That girl knows everything. John shared with me a commencement speech by environmentalist Paul Hawken at Portland University in 2009. The title alone is very inspiring. You are brilliant and the earth is hiring. It was, of course, written for students just finishing college, but it gave me some ideas of what I'd like to share today for people at any point in life. The first is just an observation, a historical fact I didn't know about. It says, millions of people are working right now on behalf of strangers. This kindness towards strangers is a relatively new thing in American history. It has roots in the 18th century. Abolitionists, abolishing slavery that is, which was a worldwide problem at the time. Abolitionists in England were the first people ever to create a global movement to defend the rights of people they did not know. Until that time, no group had ever filed a grievance except on behalf of itself. For the first time in history, a group of people organized to help people they would never know, people from whom they would never benefit. Today, millions of people do this all the time. I'd never thought about this. This was happening about the time our country was being formed with the best of intentions, but it was formed to help ourselves. It was Americans forming a new nation to help themselves. The fact that the spirit of organized global volunteering and making donations to help people we don't know is relatively recent. It strikes me as evidence that human evolution also takes place in a spiritual, ethical way, in addition to the DNA. We're better than we used to be. And John reminded me of this rousing quote that's often used at graduations. It's often attributed to Nelson Mandela, but it's actually originally from Mary Ann Williamson. Not the first time a woman's gotten slighted on her quote. She said, "Our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate, but that we are powerful beyond measure. We were born to make manifest the glory of God within us." Make manifest the glory of God within us. Such a powerful phrase, but with some words that may not resonate with all of us. I've heard some say that the word God should never be spoken in a UU church, even though, come on, one of our 5 sources says Jewish and Christian teachings which call us to respond to God's love. There are a lot of ways to look at that word. I was so taken by the phrase that I want to talk about what it means, or what it might mean, to manifest the glory of God from a UU perspective as we commence whatever is next in our lives. For me, when I encounter the word God in such a consequential statement that I don't want to ignore, as a traditional non-believer, rather than throw out the entire thought, I try substituting this instead of God. I think the best of humanity, or the best of goodness. And I want to share a story or two about that idea, about the best of humanity. The first one is about a UU church, and I think it parallels the act of those English abolitionists. In 2009, the UU congregation in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, became aware of and concerned about and ultimately committed to doing something about the impact of medical debt. Unavoidable bills ruin people's credit, push families into poverty. That congregation teamed up with a nonprofit called RIP, Rest in Peace Medical Debt. They specialize in buying up debt for pennies on the dollar. Then, instead of trying to collect the debt for profit, they simply forgive it. That church raised $21,000. They used it to buy back and forgive $4.2 million in medical debt. You may have seen that article in UU World a few years ago. I was really impressed. Families received letters signed, "Love, the UU congregation of Oak Ridge, your debt is gone." To me, that is an example of the manifestation of God within us. If you think of the best of humanity as including not only generosity, but creativity and cooperation and smarts. Another example from the recent horrific school shooting in Uvalde. One woman at the scene, whose 2 children were inside the school, though not in that terrible room, in spite of what the police told her, she sneaked around the building, climbed through a window, found her kids, and walked them out of the building. Details about how she actually did that aren't clear yet, but her actions to me are the manifestation of the human capacity for courage and clear thinking and a bit of defiance. And if you're thinking, well, my days for that kind of action are behind me, there's one of Britain's newest knights, Sir Tom Moore, not Thomas, but Tom. In April of 2020, during COVID's bleakest beginning days, Moore, then 99 years old, wanted to support the British National Health Service, the NHS. He pledged to walk across his garden 100 times if people would make donations. By the time he turned 100, he had raised over $30 million for the National Health Service. It's like one of us raising $30 million for Obamacare. If you think of the glory of God as the glory of human commitment and perseverance, there's its manifestation. And finally, a personal story. When my brother Alf was 13, he was struggling, like a lot of kids that age. He didn't have any positive male role models in his life. My mom was working 2 jobs and not able to do much beyond keeping food on the table. Alf was particularly at risk for going off the rails. Out of the blue, my mom got a phone call from our elementary school principal, Miss Mary Preston. She said she had heard of a scholarship available for a boy to go to Philmont. Is Bill Motter here? Anybody know about Philmont? Yeah. Philmont is a Boy Scout camp in Arizona. It's known for enriching boys' lives through exposure to the wilderness and to good leadership. Alf spent that summer at Philmont and he blossomed. It changed him completely. 50 years later, he retired as Chief Financial Officer of the Boy Scouts of America. Of course, that scholarship came right from Miss Preston's pocketbook. Her quiet investment in a mixed-up kid's future was as pure a manifestation of God's or humanity's or nature's glory as anything I know. As we all commence on whatever is next in our lives, whether it's the next school or the next job or the luxury of time in retirement, I'd encourage all of us to embrace big words, even if they're a little scary. Words like glory and power. As Williamson said, we're not afraid of being inadequate. We're afraid of realizing that we have incredible capacity to heal some part of the world. I've learned that there are 3 elements in figuring out how to tap into that capacity. First, and these aren't necessarily chronologically in order, but we must understand our resources. What do we have? What are our strengths? What do we know? Second, what are we committed to? And everyone will answer that question differently. What are you committed to? Family? A neighbor who needs help? Social justice? This church? Another church? Everyone chooses differently, and that's good. But when a group chooses to commit to the same thing, the power is multiplied. I'm thinking about that church in Oak Ridge. I'll tell you the third thing by telling you how I learned it. In the 1980s and 90s, I had the privilege of working for the most successful corporation in the world at the time, IBM. It was founded on 3 principles and 1 motto. Any old IBMers here or MBAs from that time? Because if you were studying business in those days, you always studied IBM. It didn't last, but they were pretty cool for a long time. The principles were respect for the individual, excellence, and the best customer service in the world. Those principles served them very well for a long time. But their motto was just 1 word. It was on every desk of every manager in IBM. The word was think. The company's founders believed that if employees had the resources and the commitment and were encouraged to think, just about anything was possible. So after assessing our resources and choosing what we're committed to, we have to take the time and mental energy to think about what we can do. It may be something as small as a smile for someone having a rough day, or something as big as wiping out $4 million of debt. We were born to make manifest the glory of God within us. That is, we were born to proclaim, to live fully, to shout from the rooftops the glory of humanity, the glory of goodness, or just the glory that lies within each of us. That's what I wanted to share today, and thank you for listening. And since I've spent a little time talking about different ways to think about the term God and other religious words, maybe we can all feel good about singing our next hymn. It's number 29, Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee. For the thee, I'll be thinking we adore being fully human. You can fill in whatever you like. But please rise if you're willing and able. I think that a little Beethoven is always a good idea. Thank you. Please be seated. You may have noticed that Aaron kindly made that a little easier for us to sing. If you're a Beethoven purist, you might have noticed it. If not, I'll tell you later. For closing words, again, some that I've used before, but they always seem appropriate because our world just keeps getting crazier and crazier. These are from a commencement speech by UU basher, but true UU lover, Garrison Keillor. When the world goes temporarily to the dogs, cats must learn to be circumspect, to walk on fences, sleep in trees, and have faith that all this woofing is not the last word. Time to shut up and be beautiful and wait for morning. Even in a time of insane vanity and greed, one never has to look far to see the campfires of gentle people. All the places where the gravy soaks in and the grace shines through.
Thank you all for being with us today. Please join us on our back patio for refreshments and fellowship. Just follow the folks through these doors to your right by left. They'll walk right past the restrooms on the way if you need those too. And remember, you can still sign up for the garden party fundraiser that's happening today at 4 o'clock. As Jeff releases our chalice flame, please join me in the words of parting that are printed in your program. We extinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please remain seated for a final blessing of music from Aaron.
Thank you, Aaron. It's so great to hear that organ play.